I missed yesterday. I came in today around noon, and I was introduced to a lot of different groups, and in particular the SmileVille group. As soon as I walked in, they said, "Are you an educator?" I said, "Yes." They said, "Sit down. Let's ask you some questions." So they kind of pitched to me this idea, and now I'm going to help them pitch it to you. I think it's a pretty awesome idea. So as an educator, I'm a math educator in high school, and I've noticed that, there's never one student in isolation who's either especially sad or especially happy. That these emotions typically are viral in a sense, and our students are living in a viral culture. Things are contagious in that way. And these emotions can lead to classroom dynamics that adjust buy-in, adjust the ways in which students absorb information. So how can we create a tool that would help us to kind of track the sentiment of our students and use that information to then tailor education?
Hi, I'm Harpreet. Think of me as a student who feels really empowered in expressing myself. Expressing myself at the end of the day, any time of the day. I want the ability to get into an application and in a very one-click way express myself. And that, along with that, as a student, I care about what is the community in my classroom and my school feeling like, and that empowers me to build my own sentiment.
So from a teacher standpoint, we've now empowered the student to, engage with us, give us some information about how they're feeling. And in doing so, we've started a dialogue. And students might not realize that we started this dialogue, but they have now started to shape the ways in which we are educating them, the ways in which that we're communicating as a community of students to students, teachers to students. But also what we can do is, as a teacher, I can sort by course. I can say if I'm doing PBL, project-based learning, sort by my project, sort by semester, and then within each of the classes that I'm teaching, I can say, I want to look at the sentiment of a specific student. I would like to look at the sentiment of all my students on a specific date. I'd like to look at, if I wanted to change these parameters, the sentiment of all my male students or my female students. On the side there to the right, I could look at aggregate data for an individual class. I'd like to look at the sentiment of all my students in that class as it compares to their GPA. Or I could look at, my entire course load and say, how does that look? And what I can do with that information is say, okay, maybe they didn't like that project. Maybe there's a particular day or a particular event in school that really reshaped the way the students were kind of taking in information. How could I do that differently? Are there any conversations that I need to have with any particular students?
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm the developer, and I will be going through this demo. So, as a first step, we started this simple, quick website in Drupal, which I'm going to show you. So the teacher here first authenticates with SLC, and we are taken to the SLC sandbox environment. I'm going to log in here as Linda, the educator. This is just because it's in sandbox, and in future, if the school provides it, the teacher will be automatically logged in using Smile app or whatever means. And in the back end, what's happening is our Drupal app is talking to SLC and pulling the student data into the local database. It's like getting the student list, it's also getting the student academic reports like GPA and all that stuff. So you will be seeing, so here next, The students will be going into this list, logging in themselves. Let's say the student is mad, he goes into his profile, and so what's his mood? If he's happy or if he is sad, or if he's in between sad and happy, he will choose that, and let's say he's happy now. He posts it, and maybe the next day after some class or something, he logs back, and let's say he's sad. So now we are using this app, we are collecting all the student emotions and we are storing it in the database. So regularly the teacher goes into the list and goes into the student's profile. Here we can see the student's bio information and his GPA chart that got pulled from SLC, and as well as the emotion chart. So first he was happy, and then later he was sad. So because it's just two samples, you can only see a straight line, but over a period of time you will have a nice looking, you will be able to compare this chart with the cumulative GPA, because this cumulative GPA is over the period of time, like last year's reports and this year's reports and all that. So that way you will be able to compare these two reports, and it will help the teacher to get better in the lesson plan and how to improve the student over the period of time. That's all.
And as a final note, I do want to take you very quickly through the story of how we came together with this. We had a group that had 2 or 3 teachers. We had Rob here. We had a product designer, a UX lead, Lucho. We had 2 or 3 developers, Nick, our lead developer, and Nitesh, and myself, who works as a business analyst at Teach for America, and a lot more people. And we also have a teacher, Sook, who worked with us. And in this brainstorming session, before we could get this idea fully formulated, we spent a lot of time on understanding what really a sentiment means in the context of the world we exist, or in the context of the students, and what it would mean for the teachers, and what are the types of outcomes they would drive. So what you see here on the board, we took a picture of, here's this crazy session of brainstorming around sentiment and its outcome that's going on here. The high-level concept by asking those questions that we figured out. And then there was the actual design session, which we started designing the interface, and finally implementing it and making it all come together and building this out.
Okay, so first question is, where are you storing sentiment data? Is that being stored locally, local to your app, or are you writing that back to the data?
Currently it's local, it's a Drupal database, so we are storing it in the local database.
And when you store it locally, are you storing it with reference to the particular section that the student is in, or are you associating it just with that student?
This is the overall thing for the student, not for a respective teacher or for a section or something. This overall system. This came from a background like people are doing this kind of analysis based on what people are posting on Facebook, social media, based on their tags. So based on that, people are analyzing the user sentiment. So we thought of bringing that into the student environment, because they don't use Twitter or Facebook. So this is a way to capture their emotions, and that way we know what the student mood is. And at least this is a new concept. I mean, no one has done it before. So we want to see how it goes. We just need the data and try to compare this data with the student performance. Let's see how it goes.
Did you, I noticed in the UX you didn't register the emotion, so I wonder if that's a deliberate design decision, and so that you click on the smiley face and the sad face, but it takes you straight back out again. I wondered if you...
Yeah, I mean, because the back end, but it doesn't show that you have selected this and that stuff. So we want to eliminate the screen and send it back to the list of students. But it's a good suggestion. Maybe we should.
And this, my second question is, in the presentation, you showed the performance over time, and then you had the 2 data points for happy and sad. What other information could you imagine overlaying on that view that might be available from the SLC data source to make the view richer?
Okay.
I'll just give our product designer first chance to answer before I start.
Okay. If I understand well, how we can improve the sentiment analysis infrastructure in order to make sense of the data of SLC, right? That's
just. But what other data could you present as part of that view? Right now, you just have the performance data, and you have sentiment.
Yeah. No. Right. In fact, right now we just did an example GPA, right? But we can start much more documentation from SLC. Like, for example, you have data from starting from the address of the student, from the performance in the class, from the teachers. So we can actually select different categories from SLC infrastructure and track during the time how this is related to the sentiment of the student. So we try initially to separate the sentiment from the category because we want to really detect the sentiment of the student across the year. We don't want the student to be judged by the category. So we're never going to see that the student knows that if you say it's empty, it uses his GPA. So it's going to be categories completely separated.
Yeah, but I just want to ask one point, and we definitely did explore that question because I know time is over at one point, that we did talk about the community context and which maps back to address and a lot more information about the student in order to build a very holistic picture of who that student is along with the dynamic sentiment analysis. And we couldn't come to what definite attributes we will use the API for. But right now, community context and past performance.
Thank you. One last question.
That's a good question. From a community of practice perspective, I know this is going to be very controversial. Have you talked about some of the outside entities in terms of how they're going to feel about you comparing emotions and performance? You probably don't have to answer, but I think it's something that you have to think about.
Yeah, I think we can pull data from other such tools that gather this information. As I said, like social media and stuff. If we can pull the data and again integrate it to this.
Yeah, and would you?
I do want to say that we're living in a world where we're very, very caught up on data-driven instruction, and I think that often in our data-driven instruction we forget the most important part of data-driven instruction, which is if the student isn't comfortable in a classroom, then the data that you receive isn't valid. So it's a very easy justification to say you need to incorporate this data.
Next up, we have portfolio, and on deck we have team M&M.